Oh, I've been busy sketching this weekend. I really
I
have.
know.
Your sketches are amazing.
Yeah. There's one coming on
brilliant.
in the next few days that I really like it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you're very good.
There was one I saw this morning with sparks or flashes coming out of your head. I thought you must have plugged yourself in somewhere to get that one.
Oh.
That one didn't go to plan. If you look at the hands, because I like to get things just right, but if you look at the hands, I've sort of got them wrong. And
You mean they're too long and slender?
Yes. Yeah, and the thumbs are in the wrong place if you look, and the little
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the thumb goes on that side, not that side.
Yeah, and I did it as I was looking at my hand and not as if it was on the face. So I got a bit confused with that one.
Well, you totally fooled me because I just thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, and me. And I looked at your hands and thought,
yeah,
gosh, hasn't she done them really well?
Me too.
I thought, my God, those are beautiful hands. They can't be Gail's, surely. For Christ's sake. Anyway.
No,
do we get distracted again?
Yes, we're off again.
So, welcome back to the Four Amigos. Could be part 7 today.
Oh, I don't know what it was.
Today we'd like to have a conversation about what we would like people to know when or just after they have a diagnosis of dementia. Because this is often the worst part for people for the few months after diagnosis, especially taking into consideration what a lot of us get told at the diagnosis meeting or soon after.
Well, I think that's the problem. So that's the start of the problem, is the diagnosis process, because it's so clinical and so negative. By its very nature, they forget that there's another side to the diagnosis. So I if only they could change the way they diagnosed, not to a positive, obviously, because it's still a bummer, but away from what they can't do to what we can still do. That would set people off on a better.
Yeah, you just said they forget something when they give the diagnosis, and I thought you were going to say they forget that there's a person involved.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
not giving medics tend to deal with their own speciality, and their job is to in this case diagnose, and then someone else takes care of things, well, theoretically, and I think they do forget actually that they're dealing with a person and they're giving a very serious, life-affecting diagnosis to people. Sorry.
Yeah, exactly the same. They called me in and just said the report shows, the tests confirm what we were thinking. You've got early onset Alzheimer's. You've got your life expectancy will be 5 years. We suggest
does that mean you're dead now?
Yeah, I should be
you're
dead
the living
now.
dead.
And then you go out and there's no support then for months. And then I think after so many, straight away maybe, you should be signposted to places that could help.
Well, it's not
help you.
Not necessarily places, it's people, isn't it?
People,
You need to meet people like us that are years post-diagnosis.
Yeah.
To see that we're still here, we're still doing, we're still Somebody said at our Minds and Voices this morning, it wasn't a person with dementia, it was one of our guests. And he said that the difference with your group is that you do so much. The difference between your group and some of the other groups I go to is that the other groups, they're mollycoddled so much that they just sit.
Yeah.
And are provided with the coffee, provided with a biscuit and little else.
Yeah.
So it's finding the right
and the odd
people.
jigsaw, a picture book.
Oh yes, probably.
Yeah.
But it's finding the right people to build your confidence.
Yeah.
So
and to help you realise you can still do the things you've always done, or you learn new things, which you're not told all this at the beginning, are you?
So okay, so what would you say now to some? Oh no, I was going to say something else. For the benefit of those people watching this who may not know us, oh God knows. I mean, there can't be anybody who doesn't know us. But anyway, possibly there is. So, how long have we been diagnosed with dementia? In my case, it's 7 years now. This year.
It must be 7 for me then.
Yeah, because we were the same year. Dory?
8 years for me.
8 years. And Gail?
I'm just over 2 years, about 2.5 years now, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So, for the benefit of anybody who has just had a diagnosis, we have had our disease for some time, and we are, although our symptoms may be getting worse, we are still doing. And for me, the key thing to say to you after your diagnosis is, and Wendy hinted at it earlier, you are still able, you are still enabled, you're not disabled. You can still do things just the same as before the diagnosis. Your life has not come to an end. It is still there. And in fact, for a lot of us, it gets better because we get to know more people. We just develop friendships and we learn skills.
My world has expanded.
Mine too.
So much after, obviously you wouldn't wish to get it, but you've got it, and you've got to run with it, haven't you? In a way.
And just think how your confidence has grown, Gail, since you met us all.
Yeah,
we've got a lot to be responsible for, haven't we? God.
Yeah, Gretchen. Yeah, the thing is, when you come out of the clinic or the doctors or the hospital, wherever you've got your diagnosis from, you come out thinking the worst because you've been told that you've only got 5 years. I think I was told 8 years, 8 to 10 years. And you start thinking, do I need to plan things now? And because you're told to get your will in order and the power of attorney, and that's sort of drummed into you, you automatically think the worst of everything. And then if you've worked and you can't carry on working, you've then got like the job centre to be faced with. And I found that one of the most degrading things to go through, because I have never ever claimed a benefit in my life. So for me to have to go into a place and sit there with people staring at me over a computer, weighing me up in a way, and then asking me questions about the diagnosis, and I'd only just been diagnosed, I found intrusive and degrading, because I was used to working all my life. And I found that really hard. That is one thing I found really hard, was giving up work.
Well, it's you've got that added worry and coming to terms with giving up work as well.
Yeah.
It's like retiring and being diagnosed. You know, you've got a double whammy.
Yeah.
Well, people often describe it as bereavement.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And there are various elements of that bereavement. Firstly, you feel you've been deprived of the rest of the life as you thought you were going to have. So what you were looking forward to. I mean, I've got to say that all of us were diagnosed with young onset dementia, i.e. we were diagnosed before we were 65.
Yeah.
In Gail's case, before she was 45. But for the rest of us, we're sort of in our late 60s, the three of us, and therefore the situation is very different for us from somebody who gets a diagnosis, you know, maybe late 70s, early 80s. We were still active. We are still active, but we certainly were. We were probably all working when we got the diagnosis. I was pretty close to retirement, but I'm still working. So that is a huge bereavement. There's also the bereavement. Yes, that's the loss of self-identity, which is so many of us identify ourselves by what we do at work. I mean, it sounds stupid when you look back at it, but you do, because it's most of your life.
It was other people working in that profession, or the benefits, and other people that what we were just talking about, George.
Self-identity, and then losing your
it was them that took away my self-identity.
How?
Always
By telling me what I could do, what I couldn't do anymore, and treating me differently.
Was that before you get the diagnosis or afterwards?
Afterwards.
So overnight they changed their attitude to you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Definitely.
You know, I wasn't allowed to sort of make a cup of tea, or
in case you did something wrong or scolded yourself or something.
You know, I was treated like I suddenly become this person who didn't know what she was doing, so couldn't go out.
Whereas, in fact, you didn't know what you were doing before the diagnosis, so it didn't make a difference.
I've always been a bit of a Dolly Daydream. You've heard my story.
They even talk to you differently, though. They don't talk to you. You know, if I go to an appointment and I've got hubby with me, they talk to my husband rather than me. So they're asking a question, how's Gail doing? Well, I'm sat here, ask me.
Yeah.
You know.
Hey, I've got the answer to that. Get your husband to turn to you in front of the doctor and say, how are you doing, Gail? And you tell him, and then he tells the doctor.
Yeah.
They'll get the message.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you're told off to go, you went to an appointment on your own, say last week, and then this week, because you've got your diagnosis, you shouldn't be going on your own. That really
Yeah.
It's often other people that are the problem.
Yeah.
Again, this morning, one of the playmates said, her neighbours said they don't know how to talk to her. And she said, because she just told them she had dementia. And I said to her, but next time, just say to them, well, I'm no different when you didn't know I had dementia than when you do know I have dementia.
Yeah.
You know, people do suddenly turn a switch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
make you feel worse.
So the message for you people out there who have just had a diagnosis is be prepared for people to do that to you, and just stand up to them and say, I'm the same person. I'm me still. You just have to say that, and you have to believe that. A lot of people after diagnosis go into a sort of dark space. It's like going down a hole and not dragging yourself out for a long time. Months, many months sometimes years. And in fact, well, I mean, interestingly, we'll go around now and say, what dragged you out of that hole if you were in a bit of a hole? Gail?
For me, it was looking for groups. And I did find a local group, and then lockdown hit. And that was the turning point for me, because I found the deep and innovations in dementia. And it was then that really brought me out of myself, because it was the help of you people, you know, and lots of other people that are all in the same situation, that have all been going on this journey. We're all slightly different on his journeys, but you can relate to what we're all going through. And we talk to one another just normally, like we've known each other for years. Like,
just like that.
Just like this, like Lancashire. Oh, and it's just brilliant. And it's, I think we sort of bounce off one another. And if somebody's doing something, then somebody will try to do that something else. So we're encouraging one another to do things.
Yeah.
And I think that's what did it for me. It was encouraging other people as well as they was encouraging me. You don't realise that you're doing it until you start. So we do encourage one another.
Yeah.
What about you, Dory?
Yeah, it was getting involved with the Deep Network. I was doing things, only just started to do things with
another big charity.
With another big charity who invited me along to some groups, and they weren't for me. The people who went there, they were in later stages. They were a lot older. They have twiddle mitts out on the tables, playing violin. I've said this before. And I sat there, and one carer or who volunteered there came and even tried to show me how to spread butter on a slice of bread. I never went back.
You see, things like that scare people.
Yeah, they do.
Because I went to a group like that where there was a lot. There were a lot more advanced stages than what I were, and it scared the hell out of me, because I thought I'm going to be like this next year.
Well, I thought if I come there again, that's how I'm going to be.
Yeah.
So I didn't go to any group. So I was back in, depressed.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got introduced to the Deep Network.
How do you actually get introduced to it, though?
Well, I'd gone with a friend to, my friend had to go because of work to a Dementia Friends session. And she said, we knew nothing about dementia, what the symptoms could be, or, you see, they should tell you some of the symptoms that can come along with it, like the hearing and the hallucinations, at some point. Anyway, I went along, and it was this gentleman. He was 52, and he was talking about dementia, and he was joking and laughing. And anyway, I remember I put my hand up, and he still remembers me doing this. And I said, oh, I've not long been diagnosed with young dementia. And he said, wait behind, and you look well. And I'll tell you about that later, he said. So when he'd done the session, I waited behind with my friend, and, you know, at the end he said he had dementia. And it was Chris Roberts. And he said, what you need to do is find out what's going on. And whatever's going on in your head, get involved. And then I had a phone call from Rachel Niblock about a month later to say that Chris had let her know about me, and there was something going on in Cardiff, and she said, would I like to go along to this conference or something? And I said, oh, I don't know, I don't get up and speak, you know, and I had no confidence. Anyway, I went. I thought, well, I've got nothing to lose, you know, I'll go along. She was really nice. She picked me up from me and drove me. We drove down. And she said to me, you won't have to speak. And somebody asked her, she was up at the front, what deep was. And the little bugger that she is said, oh, well, maybe, because I was Teresa then, I wasn't a Dory. Maybe Teresa could explain better. And I was shaking.
Oh, bless you.
And she did that a few times to me. But, I mean, you know, it did help me build my confidence up.
Yeah.
And then meeting all you other lovely deepers. I mean, and that's how they changed.
Well, it was certainly, yes. I mean, for me, it was, again, Chris Roberts and co. And I actually can't remember how I did it. I think it was through Twitter, probably, I found them, or they found me. And then I got invited along to a little conference they did, a Welsh one in Llandudno. You were there as well, Dory.
I was, yeah.
Probably Wendy, I'm not sure. And can't remember, can you? No. So and that started me off, and I just went on, kept on in touch, and ended up going to lots of places. And it does, it empowers you. Yeah. And instead gives you a purpose as well, because it's not just about campaigning. You know, it's about speaking up, being heard, but it's not sort of necessarily hammering on doors, although occasionally we feel like it.
No.
It's about finding company that you enjoy being in. Yeah.
And I don't really get into the big politics of it. I like just helping people on the ground.
Yeah.
I mean, I've had two personal, well, I had a lovely letter from this lady who in my area who listened to one of my talks, and she wrote to me and said, it made such a difference how she was caring for her mother who had dementia, and they were arguing all the time because the daughter didn't understand. So they were having quite a stressful time. And then she said, after she listened to me talk, she went home and her mum died 6 months later. But she said, I can't thank you enough for giving me that 6 months peaceful with my mum, because I didn't argue with her. So it was peaceful.
Yeah.
And that to me meant the world.
Oh, yeah. Those little things just mean keep
and that
you going,
made me feel good, because I'd done something to help, and it had helped that lady.
I'm just thinking about risk now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, Wendy's taking one in a few weeks, aren't you?
Oh, another one.
But
What are you doing this time?
Oh well, I couldn't do the paraglide last weekend because it was too windy. So
Okay,
I'm going back a week on Friday to have another try.
great. I mean, that's after you've walked on coals and
Yeah.
parachuted. Yeah.
And a parachute jump, yeah.
So there we are at our diagnosis meeting, or maybe meeting an outreach person or someone a couple of weeks later, and they say, okay, 3 things: don't get tired, don't do as much, don't take risks. That's what mine said to me, and I think it's pretty much the same for all of us. And indeed, I had an out of the blue review phone call the other day, which I think was more to satisfy the guy's guilt than to inquire about me. But at one stage he said, "So have you stopped doing as much?" I thought, "Where's he been? We've had COVID. How can anybody do anything?" So I said, "Actually, yeah, I've done a lot of virtual stuff, but I haven't been anywhere for obvious reasons." Oh, so are you going to resume? I said, "Well, probably not as much." "Oh, good. It's less risky." And I said, "It's nothing to do with risk. It's because I don't want to particularly travel up and down the country anymore."
Yeah.
Anyway, you will almost always be told, avoid risks. And what's our answer to that?
You can't avoid risks with or without dementia. Life is a risk as soon as you're born. I've been hit by a car and not expected to survive. And I was on the pavement. That's before dementia. I was 48. Life is a risk unless you sit in a chair and never go out your house.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm afraid that's what too many people do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wendy?
Because they think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think actually they do it because they're so ashamed. They think they shouldn't go out. They can't go out. They feel depressed, so they don't go out.
But also it's those around you. If they start wrapping you in cotton wool, because often to be kind, but they don't realise how bad that is.
Yeah.
Wrapping you in cotton wool is the worst thing you can do.
Yeah. They overcare.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
For me, I can remember somebody telling me mum that I shouldn't be driving anymore because I had Alzheimer's, and why had my license not been taken off me?
Oh dear.
And that was only a week or 2 after I'd been diagnosed. And I actually contacted the person and said, "You're looking at a person that has Alzheimer's or dementia that may be further along the line in their diagnosis. I have only just been diagnosed and I am not giving up driving yet because I still know what I'm doing."
Yeah.
I had an OT visit me when I moved into this house, only through me nagging like mad. But the OT insisted she left me 2 of these wheelie 3-wheeler things. I don't know what they're called, like walker things, like a frame but on wheels, to stop me falling over. And I said, "But I've got my stick. That stops me falling over." And she said, "Yes, but you never know. You're gonna need these." And so I've got 2 of these damn things in my back room, just been sat there, never used, because I don't need it. But that's what they wanted me to use.
I mean, I think, I don't think any of us would say take stupid risks.
No.
So if your balance, if you know your balance isn't very good, and mine, for example, and I think Wendy as well, both of us have difficulties with balance, then you don't go and stand on the very edge of a cliff top overlooking the sea to look at the sea, because you'll fall off probably.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean you can't walk. Well, that doesn't mean you can't walk along the footpath and just keep away from the edge.
Yeah.
And yeah, there's a risk that you might forget or might do something. But on the other hand, if you get enjoyment, and that's what I wanted to go on to, continue to do what you enjoy doing, what gives you pleasure. And in fact, what we've all found, I think, is that we stopped doing the things that we probably felt we should do, and now we do what we want to do.
Yeah.
Big difference.
And I think if something happens, while I'm doing something I enjoy, it happens.
Yeah, I think so. What?
And I think, well, at least I was having a happy time.
Yeah.
I'd rather die doing that than sat in a chair being miserable.
It's better to die with a smile on your face, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly.
Absolutely.
My daughters said they had to learn to let go of that fear of what would happen if.
Yeah.
And learn to say, oh, but Mum wants to do it and she enjoys doing it, so let her.
Yeah.
But it's a difficult thing to let go of that fear. And that's something that, again, you know, when we all got the diagnosis, those around us got the diagnosis.
Yeah.
Yet those around us were told as little as we were. And it's those sort of things that they need to be told as well.
Yeah.
Because letting go of fear is a big thing. You know, it took my daughters years to work that out.
My son still hasn't.
Yeah. It's
My
like,
daughter has. She says, oh, let her go.
Yeah.
She might only have a couple of years left. Let her do
Oh,
what she
lovely.
wants.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, thanks. But she said, if she's happy, let her do it.
Wow.
Gail, you were going to say something.
yeah, if you enjoy going for a walk, don't stop walking because you think that you're going to get lost. There are lots of things that you can set up in place if you're really worried about that, you know, that sort of thing. Just go out and walk. If you get lost, somebody will find you. So what's the problem?
Yeah.
You know,
You can ask.
yeah. Just do it.
I mean, very simple precautions like, you know, take a phone with you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah, I have a tracker on my phone and on my watch. So
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
So your husband knows when you're in the loo, does she?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, he used to know when I was shopping.
Yeah.
But
Could
even
he actually stop you from buying things as well?
No.
Even later on, it's still possible because there's a lovely family in the village, and the chap's way older than we are, and in a later stage. But they allow him, because he adores walking, so they allow him to walk wherever he wants, but they track him. They have anybody in the village that sees him go past the traffic lights, they know who to contact. The police have got him for what's that?
Oh yes, I know.
Oh, the Herbert program.
Herbert.
Protocol. Yeah, so they've got him. They've collected him quite a few times, but you know, there's no reason why he can't walk. He's a really fit person, and would be mortified if he had to stay inside.
Well, that's the thing, you see. If you're not doing what you enjoy, you're quite likely to behave in a way that reinforces people's belief that actually dementia, oh my God, challenging behaviour,
Challenging
aggressive.
behaviour.
Well, you get aggressive when you're not allowed to do what you want to
That's
do.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Somebody took me to, it's a big Victorian walled garden that's been bequeathed to the community.
Oh, is that the one near Salford? The new one?
I don't know where Salford is. My geography is terrible.
Bridgewater, it's called.
I
Never
don't
mind.
know, George.
Never mind.
Anyway,
Move on.
somebody took me there and they hadn't got dementia. And because I was a landscaper, you know, they let me come along and they want to set it up for people with dementia and people with disabilities, which is a great idea. Anyway, I was weeding, got stuck in with them, you know, and we were having a chat about dementia and he asked me what made me go to get my diagnosis, and I said I'd put my hand in a kettle. Anyway, the person I was with had spoke to him before and said that they had to go for an hour. Would I be okay to stay there and then they'd come back? Anyway, he said, okay. Well, after I told him this story, he said, would you mind? I don't think you should stay on your own. So would you mind going with your friend and then she could bring you back? So I went, yes, okay, no problem. Anyway, when we came back, I was talking and he was talking to him. And then he said to me, well, what about risks? You know, if I'm going to have people here with dementia, should I let them use tools?
Oh, gosh.
You know, doing the gardening and
No,
I said, well,
their hands.
I said, well, you've got to weigh up the risks, haven't you? Because, you know, obviously you wouldn't stick a chainsaw in their hands, although they may have had a license and know how to use them. But I said you would, you know, but I said, well, how long have you been a gardener? And he says, oh, since I left school, and I run a few gardens. And I says, well, what if you got a diagnosis of dementia and all of a sudden somebody told you you couldn't use a spade or a trowel or... Anyway, he stopped and he thought, and we carried on talking. And when it was time to go, he come up to me, he said, I would like to apologise to you that I wouldn't allow you to stay here. He says, because when you put it back on me, and I, you know, made me think how I would feel, you know, he would feel. He said, I realised, he said, so I apologise. So I said, well, I accept your apology, but thank you very much for apologising. Yeah.
I'll bring my chainsaw next time I come.
Okay.
Yeah. Hey, I still use a chainsaw occasionally. Yeah. I mean, I can do it. And the thing, what you could also have said was that do not assume that anybody with dementia is the same as anybody else with dementia.
Yeah.
Because somebody might be able to chainsaw but not be able to type. Somebody else can type but not chainsaw. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't do either. I have used a drill.
How are your teeth? The last thing that occurs to me is no, two last things. On a positive note, do try to learn new things. Learn to do new things. Maybe, you know, whether it be a men's shed or a woman's shed. I don't know what you call that. A shed, anyway. A people shed. A people shed. You know, or a group of any sort. I mean, you know, 3 of us have learned to paint and
not me.
a bit of drawing and things. Eh?
Not me.
No,
Yeah.
well, you just take thousands of photographs.
Pebble painting.
Yeah,
Pebble painting.
Yeah,
There you go.
yeah, pebble.
We do all
Yeah.
sorts of stuff, and a lot of it is generated by ourselves, and then we sort of host a session or whatever as something we're good at and teach other people.
Yeah, don't underestimate yourself.
No.
Yeah,
Just give it a go and see if you like it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it may be something that you've never thought of, or as in my case with painting. You know, I was written off by all our art teachers. I wrote myself off as well because I just said I can't do it. I just can't do it. In any case, and so now I've realised I can do it. Yeah. So don't think your life is over. That is the key thing.
I always say that it's actually dementia's given you time to do all the things you wanted to do in the past, but never had the time because you were so busy working. Your head was full of all that and the other. Well, now you've got time, so use it.
Yeah, I think that you look at things differently, and I look at things in more detail now. Even when I go out for a walk, never used to do it before because when you're working, you're rushing. So you're not looking at the things around you because all you're concentrating on is where you're going. Now I have the time to stand and look at the flower or the leaves or the insects. And I think that's helped with art because I wasn't an artist and was told at school that I was absolutely rubbish. And it wasn't until just before January, I think it was, when we did the course with Francis, the watercolour course. Yeah. And then I started sketching and realised that, I was surprising myself. And I could actually do it.
You ought to see if your ex-teacher's on Facebook or Twitter and tag her in your
I'd love to.
Well, mine will be dead because they were pretty much dead when they were teaching me. So they certainly will be now.
Well, I say dementia's give me wings, and I feel dementia's give me permission to be myself.
Yeah.
Perhaps you could sponsor a Formula One team. Dementia gives you wings.
Yeah.
I always look at it as this is now a new chapter, and this is my dementia chapter. It's a whole new. It's just a different chapter that you live in.
Yeah,
and it's actually quite a good one sometimes. You know,
it's a different life, but
it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, we have bad days, and sometimes we feel really grotty and horrible. But on our good days, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and I think probably the people who have the most negative attitudes to having dementia are the people who don't actually have it. You know, people who, bless them, family carers. I mean, hopefully ours are exceptionally wonderful, but I know plenty of stories of people who have been effectively, bound up in cotton wool, hidden away because they're ashamed of their husband or wife having dementia. You know, that is absolutely awful. We need to just understand it and accept it.
I think even worse is when the person feels okay about saying they've got dementia, but the family don't allow them because they're embarrassed.
Yeah.
And that's very sad.
Yeah. And one lady said to me, she was the wife of the man with the dementia, and he had a very high-powered job. And she said, I would never, he was very clever, you know, and he used to be a pilot, and he did this and he ran. And I says, well, dementia's not fussy. It's not choosy. You know, a lawyer or a man on just, you know.
It's just a brain disease. Anybody can.
Yeah. But she was like shocked, and she wouldn't tell anybody that he had dementia, because she, you know, well, how's he got it? He was this important man.
Yeah. Okay, so just to sort of perhaps wrap up, do not despair. Do not give up. There is life out there. There is lots of life. There is lots of enjoyment to be had.
Yeah.
Just get out, socialise, find groups of people who you want to be with. Look at the Deep Network website. Look for deep groups. They're not everywhere by a mile, but they are what we've always found them fantastic support.
Yeah.
And remember, we die once, so life is for living.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right, you only die once. That is Wendy's parting shot. You only die once. James Bond. Right.
Yeah, because people say you only have one life, but you only have one death, don't you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.